Hello and welcome to the Trust Your Board podcast. I'm your host, William Monroe, and I'm joined by my co-host, Stephen Wright.
Hey, well, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Given this is our second episode, I'm going to give a quick recap of what we're all about here. If you want to learn more specifically about us personally, check out our first episode. During the off season, we will be doing mock drafts with different scoring formats and explaining our thought process in order to help you prepare for draft day. Once the season begins, we'll pivot to helping with who do you start questions. We will get questions from comments on our YouTube videos, questions sent to us on Twitter, random questions we can find online like Reddit, and anywhere else we can find them.
Awesome. Thank you for the recap, Will. So, we're going to lead off this show a little bit differently. It's a beginning segment about a Twitter poll that we found. So, hopefully, we can make a habit of this. Every show, we can look around throughout the week on Twitter, find a poll regarding some sort of question, whether it be a trade or a draft strategy, ADP question, and then briefly discuss it. So, Will, what scenario are we looking at today?
So I'm going to lay out the scenario here for you. It's a half PPR point redraft league. On the team itself, they've already had David Johnson, Mike Evans, and Damian Williams. And they're looking for their fourth player. They've positioned four players that they're looking at here: Marlon Mack, Amari Cooper, Julian Edelman, or Mark Ingram. What are you thinking, Steve?
So my initial reaction was to go with Julian Edelman. I liked grabbing that second wide receiver, so you have some flexibility moving into your next pick in that you have two running backs and two wide receivers, and you're free to pick what's the best available out there. I wish it was a full PPR, that'd give Edelman even more value, but half point is good enough. But with that in mind, I do recognize the risk of Damian Williams. So if you want to pull a trigger on a Mac or an Ingram, I would be okay with that as well. Just my first preference was Edelman.
Yeah, for me, it's got to be Edelman. I do consider Mark Ingram. I believe he's going to be the bell cow on a really run-heavy offense. But given the makeup of this team, I don't think I'd be able to pass up on the consistency and safety comes with Edelman. And I know he missed the first 4 games of last year due to suspension, but in those next 12 games that he played, he was inside the top 24 for wide receivers 10 times. So, wide receiver two or better 10 of his 12 games last year. So definitely give me Edelman. As it turns out, though, Cooper actually won the poll with about 56% of the vote. I'm not a huge Cooper fan, given the extremely inconsistent weeks he's shown us in the past. Just looking at 2018 alone, he was only inside the top 24 5 weeks, while he was outside of the top 40 8 weeks. I mean, he very well may finish the end of the year as a wide receiver one, but I prefer more consistency than having almost half of your points come in just 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not a big Cooper fan. He's not off my board. I do like Cooper if I have a stacked wide receiver core already. So if it was, say, Devonte Adams and Mike Evans, that's where I would want to pair Amari Cooper. The problem with that is once that decision comes up for me, I'm most likely going to want to grab another running back. So I'm not too sure on running back. So for me, his ADP really needs to fall. So I will most likely have no shares of him. I do realize the potential. He's a fantastic wide receiver, and you could spin a narrative that maybe he just didn't fit with Carr, and maybe he has better chemistry with Dak, and the offense fits in better. But I'm not going to be along for that ride. If he breaks out and has a fantastic year, wouldn't surprise me, and I'm okay with allowing that to happen on another team other than my own. Sometimes you gotta, take that risk and just realize that you don't want to take a gamble on certain players.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. And just shout out the poll comes courtesy of 216er on Twitter. Their handle is at Pooh Bear Cat Bomb, POOBEARCATBOMB.
Awesome. So I hope we helped them out a little bit and everyone else that participated in that poll. But now, Will, I believe you have an announcement about our next podcast episode.
That is right, Steve. You teased it earlier today when you did a live stream of a mock draft. We have a Dynasty Startup Draft coming up on Monday that Steve and I are going to be co-running a team for. For any of you not familiar with Dynasty, this means we'll be doing the initial draft for the Dynasty League. Dynasty Leagues will allow you to keep majority of your players year in and year out, so it's crucial to have a balance of a 2019 outlook, but then also the seasons beyond that. We are going to be drafting out of the 9th slot, we just found out today, meaning that our picks are going to be either 9th or 5th, alternating each round. And we'll be doing the draft live here on the pod. Depending on how long it lasts, it may end up being 2 different podcasts. But I don't know about you. I'm pretty excited, Steve.
Yeah, I can't wait. There's nothing like a Dynasty startup draft. You're really beginning some new little baby, and you're going to be with that team for years, ideally, and changing it around and hopefully not ruining it. And that's incredibly exciting. I love Dynasty startups. But that's next week. We got a mock draft to take care of today. Will, what are we doing?
So we have a 10-team standard mock draft, so we're doing standard non-PPR. I guess nowadays that's PPR is the commonplace, so you have to specify a non-PPR draft here. Steve is going to be drafting out of the 5th spot, and I will be drafting out of the 8th spot. Roster makeup is going to be 1 QB, 2 running backs, 2 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 2 flex, and 6 bench spots. So, Steve, you want to start us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So there we go. The draft is in motion. Christian McCaffrey, David Johnson, Saquon Barkley, and Alvin Kamara come off the board, which leaves me with a interesting decision to make. We have all of our wide receivers available to us, and we have Zeke available to us. So I have not run into this scenario that often where David Johnson has been going that high, especially in standard leagues. So this is a bit of a curveball, but I am still going to go with a wide receiver, which is what I would be doing if Zeke went instead of David Johnson. I don't want to take the risk right now with Zeke. He could be a huge player. He will be if he plays, but I don't want to miss however many weeks that he could miss. I'm sure Team 6 or Team 7 here are really going to appreciate him, but I'm going to grab a top wide receiver and just guarantee, outside of injury, a number 1 player. And I'm going to go ahead and grab DeAndre Hopkins. I don't think you can go wrong with him or Davante Adams. They should be relatively close to each other at the end of the day. But DeAndre Hopkins is where I am going to place my bet as being the number 1. Right after me goes Ezekiel Elliott and then Davante Adams. And now, Will, you are on the board.
All right, so definitely would have hoped that Elliott or Adams would have gotten to me there, but unfortunately that is not the case. So I'll be looking at the top of the board here. We have Le'Veon Bell, James Conner, Michael Thomas, and Julio Jones, Todd Gurley, Tyreek Hill, and Joe Mixon. Not really in love with any of these players. I like Michael Thomas, but I would really be hoping for one of those top 7 to fall to me here if this was the situation. For me, I'm not a huge fan of James Conner. I understand he probably gets most of the workload now, but I'm going to pass on them and probably in most leagues. Really probably looking at either Le'Veon Bell, Michael Thomas, or Julio Jones. For me, probably going to play it safe and lean Michael Thomas just because I think there's a little bit of risk that comes into play with Le'Veon Bell. So we'll see which running backs and potentially which receivers get back to me in the 2nd round here. But my pick here is going to be Michael Thomas. Right. And after him, Le'Veon Bell, Odell Beckham, James Conner, Joe Mixon. So still have a couple of big time players on the board there. Julio Jones, Todd Gurley, Tyreek Hill. For me, probably looking at Julio Jones or Todd Gurley. I do like Tyreek Hill a lot as well, but receiver wise at this point, I'm probably looking for something a little more guaranteed, like a Julio Jones. And then running backs, probably looking if anything some upside. So at this point, I'm not a huge risk taker, but I kind of want to see what my team would look like. Should I take that risk on Todd Gurley? So we're gonna go with Todd Gurley here and see how the rest of the team shakes out. I like what that would give me some flexibility going forward with the running back and wide receiver positions. So we're gonna go Todd Gurley.
Yeah, that's what mock drafts are for, Will. Learning and kind of playing around and experimenting, right?
Exactly. That's what we're here for. Maybe once in a while, taking a quarterback or a tight end early to see how it would look. But yeah, that's really what you're there to kind of see how your team would look, so you don't have to make that risk itself without knowing the reward come draft day. So we'll go Todd Gurley. There goes Tyreek Hill and Juju Smith-Schuster. Interesting that Julio falls this far down to you, Steve.
It is very interesting. I wanted Tyreek Hill to get to me. I want to pair him with DeAndre Hopkins, but we'll take a look at our running backs and wide receivers. But I think Julio is probably going to end up being the pick. We have Dalvin Cook, Nick Chubb, Damian Williams, and Melvin Gordon for running backs. For wide receivers, Julio Jones, Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, T.Y. Hilton. We have all our quarterbacks and all of our tight ends. But as Will mentioned, and I mentioned before I ran off the players, Julio falling here is really interesting. This is a great value. Pairing him with DeAndre Hopkins is going to give me a killer wide receiver core, regardless of what happens with the rest of the draft. So we're going to go ahead and grab Julio. We'll have two steady players there, which should allow me to grab some more running backs and really focus on that position with the later picks here. So the pick is in. Grabbed Julio at a bit of a running back run. Nick Chubb, Melvin Gordon, Dalvin Cook, Travis Kelce then went at the 210, but right back with the running backs at 3-1. Marlon Mack, Damian Williams, and then Antonio Brown and Mike Evans went right before my pick. So from a running back standpoint, we have Aaron Jones, Leonard Fournette, Derrick Henry, Kerryon Johnson, Devonta Freeman. Wide receivers, T.Y. Hilton, Keenan Allen, Adam Thielen, Amari Cooper. So pretty happy with my wide receivers. You know, pairing them with another guy like a Keenan Allen or an Adam Thielen or the guy we just pooped on, Amari Cooper. It would be really interesting. Amari would really add some fire to this team, but I don't want to get lost in the running backs here. You know, we got 10 picks going off the board before I get back, and that could be a lot of running backs gone. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my first running back. Leonard Fournette and Derrick Henry are not options for me. I am not a fan of Fournette due to the injury and off the field concerns. I'm not too big on Derrick Henry. He kind of falls into that Amari Cooper side of things where I really recognize the talent and he could have a fantastic year, but I'm okay with that happening on someone else's team. I like Aaron Jones. I believe in Aaron Jones, but with my first running back, I don't want Aaron Jones for that role out of fear that he could just end up being in a 50-50 split. So that leads me to Kerryon Johnson and Devonta Freeman. Both should get the lion's share of carries on their teams. 3 down backs, they both catch the ball. So both of them are going to be good options here. I am going to go ahead. I might surprise some people and make some people kind of angry because I know some people are really big on Kerryon Johnson, but I'm going to go ahead and go with Freeman. The only reason being that he is on the better offense, and that's what I'm going to use as my tiebreaker right now. I'm not too concerned about his injuries in the past. I think they're behind him, and I think just being on that high-powered offense is going to give him a little bit more upside.
Any thought of pairing him with Julio Jones there? Two guys on the same offense?
Yes and no. I really don't like doing it, but I'm not going to shy away from it if I think the best player on the board is on the same team. Um,
Mhm.
this would be one thing if I was pairing lines together. If I did on Johnson and Kenny Galladay, I don't know how many touchdowns the Lions are going to be scoring this year. It might not be a lot. I'm a big believer in Kenny G and carry on, and I love Matt Stafford, but maybe they don't put up as many touchdowns. Where Atlanta, I feel like they're going to score enough to where Julio and Freeman are going to be just fine for me. So we're going to go ahead, make that pick there. Patrick Mahomes goes off the board right after me at 3-6, and then Aaron Jones, and now we are to Will.
All right, so over to me here. I was probably looking toward the running back position again because I think there's quite a few receivers I wouldn't mind taking with my next pick. The running backs seem to be drying up a little bit for guys that I think have upside and opportunity together. And two of those guys, after you took Freeman, were Aaron Jones, who just went off the board before me, and the aforementioned on Johnson. I think both of them are going to get the lion's share of the workload, and for both of them, it's just all about remaining healthy. So definitely a little bit of a risk taking him with Gurley because they both have somewhat health concerns. So it's something that I would definitely take into consideration as the draft goes forward, maybe with my third and fourth running back going a little safer as opposed to higher upside guys. But for me here, I don't think I can pass on the upside and the chance to have two guys in that RB1 range with Gurley and carry on at the end of the year to pair with the safety that Michael Thomas already have. I just going to look at the landscape. As of now, only Patrick Mahomes is off the board at quarterback, and only Travis Kelce off the board at tight end. So running back still has Fournette there, Derrick Henry, Kerryon Johnson, Josh Jacobs, Mark Ingram, and David Montgomery. And then wide receiver, we have T.Y. Hilton, Keenan Allen, Adam Thielen, Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs, Brandon Cooks, and Julian Edelman. So for me, it's going to be Kerryon Johnson with the upside there, and then we'll see which running backs and receivers are still on the board here with my next pick. All right, so after that, Keenan Allen goes, George Kittle, T.Y. Hilton, and Josh Jacobs. Uh, Almost happy that Kittle was taken there because it takes a little bit of temptation away. I know he definitely has some pretty high upside, and I would have considered him here with my next pick, this third pick in the fourth round. So now I'm looking at a couple of guys. Ingram is pretty appetizing given the riskiness of running backs I already have. Gives me a sturdier guy as my third running back, but then would also give me some pretty big running back upside should Gurley and Kerryon both hit. Wide receiver position, most of the guys I like are still there. And I think there's probably a decent chance that one of them, between Thielen, Cooper, Diggs, Cooks, Edelman, and Woods would get back. But worst case, I'd be settling for a more upside guy like Galladay, Lockett, Ridley, Godwin, like Williams. I think there's a pretty good chance that I'm going to be able to get at least one or two solid receivers in the next pair of picks I have. So for me here, it's going to be Mark Ingram to solidify my team running back position. And after me goes the pair of Minnesota receivers, Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen.
So we are in an interesting situation here. So again, Mahomes, the only quarterback off the board. Kittle and Kelsey, the only two tight ends off the board. From a running back standpoint, we have Fournette, we have Derrick Henry, we have David Montgomery, we have Chris Carson. Wide receivers, Amari Cooper, Brandon Cooks, Julian Edelman, Robert Woods. Some people that I wouldn't normally draft because of their ADP have fallen to me. That would be Fournette, Henry, and Cooper. All of them are options here for me. They
Mm-hmm.
tend to go in the third, and they have all fallen to me in the fourth. Now it is only a 10-man draft, so it's not that big of a fall, but a fall nonetheless. I'm still not super comfortable with Fournette or Henry as being my RB2. It could be huge. especially with Fournette, who we've seen incredibly talented. But I want to play it safer. I'm not in that big of a gambling mood. Where Amari Cooper would be somebody I probably would gamble on at the wide receiver position. That tends to be where I prefer to gamble. But it's also hard to do that when Brandon Cooks is right there, who is the same kind of boom bust guy, but more consistent and on a better offense. So it's kind of tough. This is where it sucks kind of being in the middle of the draft because it's harder to play the who's going to get back to me game. But a lot of the guys after me are stacked at running back. So I'm going to grab a wide receiver and kind of assume that not a lot of running backs are going to go off the board here before my next pick. So we are looking at Cooper or Cooks. I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to go ahead and grab Brandon Cooks. Get some of that upside. Julio and D-Hop will take care of things if he busts, when he busts. He has his bad weeks. But when he hits off, I don't think anyone's going to be beating me those weeks when he has his good game. So we're going to go ahead and grab him and see if my running back gamble pays off. There goes Derrick Henry and Fournette. Sorry, what was that, Will?
I was going to ask if there's any temptation for Zach Ertz there, but it looks like if he got back to you should you have that temptation.
Yeah, there wasn't there just because of all of the people that fell to me. If they didn't fall to me, it would have been. My gamble did not pay off.
Yeah, wow.
Derrick Henry, Fournette, Amari Cooper, Chris Carson round out the 4th round, and then the 5th round is David Montgomery, Sony Michel, Philip Lindsay, and Andrew Luck at the 5-4. So 2 of these teams have 4 running backs. Saquon Barkley, Melvin Gordon, Leonard Fournette, Philip Lindsay, and then the other team with Christian McCaffrey, Marlon Mack, Chris Carson, and David Montgomery. And that team doesn't even have a wide receiver yet because they grabbed Kelsey in the 2nd round. So
yeah.
I feel like I made a logical gamble, and it just really didn't work out.
Yeah, who knows if that would actually happen in a real draft? Computers seem like they're based on average draft position and end positional need, but who really knows?
Yeah, I'm sure there are some people that would prefer this strategy. Will, our friend Mike Warren, prefers running backs, so I could see him adopting a strategy like this.
Maybe he's listening.
Maybe. But that's really disappointing. So to lay out the landscape here, Tevin Coleman, Kenyon Drake, Lamar Miller, Darius Geis are our running backs. Our wide receivers are Edelman, Robert Woods, Kenny Galladay, AJ Green, and Tyler Lockett. I'm going to go ahead and grab a running back here. I really like the upside that Coleman provides, but I'd rather him be my 3. I like Kenyon Drake as a talent, but I don't know what his workload is going to look like this year. Kalen Ballage is getting a lot of hype, so I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to go ahead and grab Lamar Miller as my steady running back 2. He's just going to be just that steady. He's not going to have some super high upside, but his floor is going to be very high, and that's going to be wonderful for this team. I don't need a lot of high upside with these baller wide receivers. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to grab Lamar Miller. That's also going to help us a little bit if Devonta Freeman goes down, having a nice steady presence there with Miller. So that pick is in. Robert Woods and Tyler Lockett go right off the board after me, and we are to Will.
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought I was looking at Woods and another player that I'm probably going to take here, and I figured because both of those teams only have 1 running back each, that I would have my pick of the receivers I wanted. But it's interesting that unlike the top half of the draft, the 2 teams between Steve and I each only have 1 running back through 5 rounds.
Yeah, they're throwing us some curveballs here.
They really are. So yeah, the aforementioned Woods was one guy I was really considering, and another player that's in a similar vein to him is Julian Edelman, who's still on the board here. I really like the upside of Edelman this year, really not having too much competition, especially with some of the stats that I kind of read through there. So he's the guy that catches my eye initially. Zach Ertz still on the board is definitely something that I'd have to consider as well, given that one team after me already took a tight end. Something that I think I'd be willing to gamble on that maybe this one other team wouldn't, because we do have Julian Edelman still there. And then AJ Green is also still on the board. This is a position where I would consider gambling on him. I probably would wait another round. But getting him as my third receiver, while already having three really high upside RBs, I think would be a good position to be in. So there's a few guys that I like here. I think the one that I want to guarantee I get here first and foremost would be Julian Edelman. So we're going to go with Edelman to be my number two receiver on this team. So we'll draft Julian Edelman and see what happens from here. Mike Williams goes, AJ Green, Tevin Coleman, and Zach Ertz. So a couple
Ah,
guys that I was pretty interested in went off the board there, and William Ertz and AJ Green.
that's tough.
Yeah, it's a gamble you risk, right?
Yep.
I mean, I'm always okay waiting a little longer on tight end, so that's not too bad. But I'm imagining, Edelman would have went in the place of any of those guys I would have taken over him. So looking at the board, we have three tight ends taken in Kelsey, Kittle, and Ertz. We have two quarterbacks taken in Mahomes and Luck. So still have a lot of people on the board there. As you guys know, we've mentioned we're not high on the quarterback upside. Just looking at the ADP of them, it looks like Watson and Rogers have an early sixth-round pick ADP, so right where we're at here. But it's definitely something that, given Baker, Mayfield, Matt Ryan, Drew Brees, Carson Wentz, the Wilson, all on the board still, not something that I'm willing to risk giving up more high upside running back or receiver on yet. So I'm gonna flip over and take a look at the running backs before we look at the receivers. I think in this position, receivers going to be the direction I lean, given I only have two, and I'm pretty confident in my running backs here. But we'll still take a look. We have Kenyon Drake on the board, Darius Geis, Rashad Penny's a nice high upside running back. With James White, Trey Cohen, Latavius Murray, and Daryl Henderson. So definitely give pause because I do like the upside of Rashad Penny, someone that I would consider. But I think it's a little early for him. It would be a little bit of a reach, especially with the receivers that are still on the board here. So I'll flip over here. We have Kenny Galladay, as well as Calvin Ridley, Chris Godwin, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Boyd, and DJ Moore. Looking at all of them there, I think Cooper Kupp's probably the safest option, and depending on how my roster makeup was, he would be a good option had I won a couple of more high upside players in the receiver position early. I think I have the opportunity here to maybe take a more higher upside shot. So I'd probably be looking at this point at Kenny Galladay, Calvin Ridley, or Chris Godwin.
Any concerns with
Looking,
pairing Galladay with Carrion? I believe that was the example I threw out there earlier.
yeah, the lion's share there. That's definitely something that would give me pause, and that it's kind of something that I would probably use as a tiebreaker. I'm not huge on Calvin Ridley. I'll leave him for you since you clearly are going for the Atlanta Falcons offense. So for me, it comes down to Galladay or Godwin, and I'm pretty high on both of them. Galladay, probably is getting a little bit more hype, although the Godwin hype train has been rolling. But I think the tiebreaker there for me is really just giving a little more diversification. So I'm gonna go with Chris Godwin here. I think he's in line for a really big role, and it doesn't hurt that he went to my alma mater, Penn State, as well. I always like taking a Penn Stater. So we'll see what happens. Rolling the dice with Chris Godwin and see what kind of players come back on my next turn. Anybody you're hoping gets through these next two picks here?
Penny. I was
Penny.
scared when
Oh,
you were
okay.
talking about him. I want the upside of Penny. I am terrified because these two people between us do not have many running backs, so I'm really scared. But it's out of my control, so we'll see what happens.
That being the case, I think I'm going to pivot to Rashad Penny. No,
Well,
I'm just
no.
kidding. We'll go with Chris Godwin as I mentioned there, and let's see what happens here. Calvin Ridley and Kenny Galladay.
Wow.
Go, Steve.
I mean, this is really the tale of two different sides of the board.
Yeah.
Uh, it's it's really it's amazing. So on the board for us, we have all our quarterbacks outside of Mahomes and Luck. For running backs, we have Kenyon Drake, Darius Geis, Rashad Penny, James White, Tariq Cohen. For wide receiver, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Boyd, DJ Moore, Alshon Jeffrey, and Jarvis Landry. Tight ends, we have everybody except for Ertz, Kittle, and Kelsey. It is at a tough spot to be. I don't have to draft Penny. There's three tight ends here that I really like, and Howard, Ingram, and Henry. I don't know if they would make it back to me because I don't know what these teams are doing. So it's kind of hard to predict. Uh, Cooper Kupp would be awesome, and I wouldn't shy away from having him and Cooks on the same roster. I think that offense is that good, but I don't need another wide receiver right now. I'm not worried about quarterback. We still got plenty of people on the board, so I am going to go ahead and grab Penny. You know, I do really like Geis. I just don't think this is a year for him. And everything I said about Kenyon Drake earlier still stands now, although he is becoming quite a value. If he gets back to me in the 7th round, that's going to be a
hmm
very interesting decision. We're going to lock in Penny now. Give me an upside young running back that's going to have some sort of guaranteed role, which we're going to be running out of those kind of players here shortly. So the pick is in. OJ Howard went immediately after me, followed by Cooper Kupp, Tyler Boyd, and Robbie Anderson to round out the 6th. Aaron Rodgers goes at 7-1, and then Alshon Jeffrey, DJ Moore, and Darius Geis. So I am now facing that decision. We have Kenyon Drake, James White, Tariq Cohen, and Latavius Murray. At wide receiver, we have Jarvis Landry, Dante Pettis, Will Fuller, Allen Robinson, Christian Kirk, Sammy Watkins. I like all of them guys outside of like Landry. Fuller I can't go with because I got Hopkins. I'm not going to pair them together, but I like a lot of these guys, so I feel like I can pass on wide receiver because everyone after me has a lot of wide receivers. Not that that means anything in this draft, but there it
A lot of
is.
good trade partners out there.
Yeah, for sure. So I am looking at Evan Ingram. I think this would be a nice spot for him, but it's really hard to pass up Kenyon Drake here in the 7th round. You know, I brought him up in the 5th with Lamar Miller.
hmm
So this is quite a discount. This is one of those situations where you need to stay flexible. You can't take somebody off your board completely and just say, I don't like this guy, I'll never draft him. The situations exist where even if you don't like them, they could fall and they're going to be available to you. We've mentioned Amari Cooper a lot in this episode. He's one of them guys where you're going to end up in a league where nobody likes the guy and he's going to fall 2 rounds below ADP, and you're going to be stuck with a decision. Those leagues
hmm
exist. Some people are going to be faced with Patrick Mahomes in the 5th round because everybody's like quarterback. These things happen. So Kenyon Drake for me is too much of a value to pass up. I just got done saying there's not a lot of people that's going to have a carved out uh, load to carry. Kenyon Drake, could he lose his job to Balaj? Sure. But Balaj is going to come to 3 down back. They're still going to split carries there. So I'm going to go ahead and grab Drake, get that value, and if he holds on to the starting job, that is going to rock for me. So the pick has been made. Hunter Henry and Evan Ingram ran off the board right before me. I'm sure they are both options for you, Will.
Yeah, that was one thing I was looking at potentially pivoting here and going with a earlier tight end, but they made the decision easy for me to wait at least for the next tier. Another thing I'm potentially thinking about here because there's two incredibly highly value picks here. And that's two quarterbacks that are still on the board at the end of the seventh round, and Deshaun Watson and Baker Mayfield. Both guys that I usually would go off the board earlier than this. It's something that I think I can, if I want to, take that early quarterback, I can probably wait one more round, or we can let the two teams behind me, decide whether I'm going to make that early pick in the next round, or continue to wait. So I'm looking at Deshaun Watson and Baker Mayfield with potentially my eighth pick if one of them is still there. So we're going to flip over to the running backs and receivers list. Uh, just to look at the tight ends after those Hunter Henry and Everett Ingram went. Eric Ebron's still here. Jared Cook, Vance McDonald, David Njoku, Trey Burton, Delaney Walker. A lot of guys available, but nobody that I'm ready to take in either of these next two picks. After Watson and Mayfield, just to flip back to the quarterbacks, Matt Ryan, Breeze, Wentz, and Wilson all still on the board as well. It always gives you a little pause when you see that much depth there, but I think Watson and Mayfield definitely have a lot of upside with some very dynamic offenses. So we're going to take a look at the running back and receiver position. Running backs, we have James White, Tariq Cohen, Latavius Murray, Darrell Henderson, Jordan Howard, Miles Sanders all on the board. And at wide receiver, we have Jarvis Landry, Dante Pettis, Will Fuller, Allen Robinson, Christian Kirk. A lot of guys I like, but all kind of in the same tier there for me. So one thing I'm still thinking, I'm pretty happy with the receiving core. I feel like it's pretty balanced. Running backs still seem a little top heavy with the risk that comes into play for Todd Gurley and Kerryon. So I'm going to lean toward another safer running back that I think is going to get at least 50% of the line share. And he actually replaced my third running back, Mark Ingram, in Latavius Murray. I think Latavius is going to get at least a 50% workload here in this offense. They definitely want to limit the carries of Alvin Kamara to keep him fresh and have that burst and the peak efficiency that he carries with him. So here we're going to go with Latavius Murray and then kind of see what receivers and quarterback, if those two quarterbacks are still there on this pick. So we'll go Latavius, there goes Baker and Deshaun Watson. Kind of figured that was going to happen, so they made the decision easier for me to continue to wait. But it is interesting to see Watson and Mayfield and Rodgers all not go until the seventh round. What do you think about that, Steve?
Yeah, this draft is interesting. You know, some people are really falling, and combine that with the odd trends at wide receiver and running back we were seeing on both sides of the board. It's a different kind of draft. It's kind of nice. It keeps you on your toes a little bit.
It does. So taking a look here at what's still available as Watson and Mayfield go, the rest of the quarterbacks I mentioned are still there. So nobody that really sticks out like those two did, given their average position. I think Breeze, Wentz, Ryan, and Wilson are kind of all in a tier of their own, and wouldn't mind holding off on them, given that five teams already have a quarterback. Not really looking at any of the tight ends yet. I think they're all kind of still in the same tier. Be nice to have one of them over kind of a flyer, but not something I'm ready to take right now. So I think I'm looking at the wide receiver position. Definitely think look at Pettis. I think he's got a really good option to break out this year. It's really all about that offense. So the only other thing that gives me pause is, seeing my offense. I think Pettis could be a pretty solid week to week player. But I do have some consistency with Michael Thomas, Edelman, and Godwin. Feel like unlike my last running back pick here, where I want to get some safety, I think receiver I want to get a little bit of juice, a little bit of upside. So I'm going to go with someone who has been a little injury prone, but when healthy, he has been really, really explosive. So I'm going to go with the opposite player of Steve's first pick here. We're going to go with Will Fuller. Give me a little bit of pop at the receiving core here. So let's see what happens. And anyone you're hoping gets back to you there, Steve, after we pick Fuller?
Yeah, it's absolutely Pettis. I'm
Yeah,
I'm in the
figured as
same
much.
position you are. I'm pretty safe at running back or wide receiver, and I could take a shot on somebody. I can't take that shot on Will Fuller because I already got Hopkins. I'm not doubling up
Yeah.
here. So Pettis is the one I want.
All right, well, let's see what happens when I take Fuller here. Matt Ryan goes and Jefferson, so you're looking good.
Yeah, I am. So quick rundown here. We got Jordan Howard and Miles Sanders, Austin Eckler, Kareem Hunt, wide receivers Jarvis Landry, Pettis, Allen Robinson, Christian Kirk. All the same tight ends that Will went through, and all the same with quarterbacks outside of Matt Ryan. So I'm going to go ahead, lock in Dante Pettis for the reasons I just mentioned earlier. I can take a gamble on a little bit of upside, and I am very high on Dante Pettis. Let's see who gets back to me. Jarvis Landry, Eric Ebron, Allen Robinson, Christian Kirk, Miles Sanders, Drew Brees, Carson Wentz went at 9-3. I hate this third team.
Yeah,
Carson
he's
was
taking
going
a
to
lot
be
of the
my boy.
players.
That is.
I figured you would have really liked rubbing that in my face, huh?
Yeah, it would have been. It would have been a trend.
Yeah, I feel like
That's
that's happened
unfortunate.
before for some reason.
Yeah, it would have been a nice deja vu moment. But here we are. And then after Carson Wentz was Ronald Jones, just a terrible pick. So on the board,
Get him off the board.
at quarterback, we have Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, Cam Newton, Jared Goff. At running back, Jordan Howard, Austin Eckler, Kareem Hunt, Royce Freeman. At wide receiver, Sammy Watkins, Marvin Jones, Geronimo Allison, and Marquez Valdez Scantling. And at tight end, Jared Cook, Vance McDonald. I am faced with an interesting decision. I'd rather wait on tight end. Given Wentz is gone, I'm going to wait on quarterback as well. I'm not in love with the running back options. I know it's not going to get any better from here on out, but I can wait there. I'm going to grab another wide receiver. The question is, what do I want? Sammy Watkins, best offense in the league, injury prone. Marvin Jones, very safe. Um, so he's an interesting play. Geronimo and MVS, both with Green Bay, high powered offenses. Cortland Sutton, Sterling Shepard, Larry Fitzgerald, not bad picks either. I'm going to take another shot at an upside guy. And that leaves me to Sammy Watkins or MVS. I like MVS, but I don't think he has the same upside that Sammy Watkins does this year, just being in the best offense in the league. He's going to get hurt. I know he's going to get hurt. That's just kind of what happens. But I have the wide receiver core to deal with that. So I'm going to go ahead and grab Watkins as another solid upside play. After my pick was Eckler and Jordan Howard. The pick is to you, Will.
All right, so now for me, I think I'm pretty happy with the receiving core and the running backs I have here. Looking at the quarterbacks, there's still quite a few that I'm more than happy to take. So I don't see any of them that really stick out amongst the rest. So take a look over at the tight end position. Still have Cook, still have Vance McDonald, two options that I like, and it looks like both of the guys after me have tight ends. So we'll see. Wouldn't put it past them to take the backup tight end, but I think that's something that I wouldn't mind waiting on here. For me, it's down to two players, both upside options. One at the receiver, the running back. The wide receiver is the aforementioned Marquise Valdez Scantling. I think I am a little higher on him than Sammy. I know they both have great quarterbacks they're working with, both currently the number two receivers. But I think there's a few more question marks with Tyreek Hill than Adams, whether it be off the field issues, maybe injury concerns with a guy that's such a burner. So definitely understand why you went with Sammy there. I think MVS definitely has some extra competition there, so it's something that I'm gonna definitely think about that. The running back position, I'm looking at Royce Freeman. I think definitely got a little bit of extra competition with Theo Riddick, but I don't think he's gonna take too much work away. I think it's really gonna be Lindsey and Freeman. And Freeman, coming to this point in the draft, I think this makes sense as a good spot for him, given he'll be my fifth running back and really be able to be a depth piece. And if he breaks out, some great trade bait. So for me, I'm going to lean Royce Freeman, and then I'm going to kind of see how the next couple of picks play out, whether it be potentially MVS or one of those two tight ends still on the board for me here. So hoping one of the three of those get back to me, but we'll see here. Going with Royce Freeman, running back, Denver Broncos. So there's Cortland Sutton, Marvin Jones, Kareem Hunt, and Sterling Shepard. So if you look at that, all three of the players I was interested in got back to me here. Now, looking at those guys available, as much as I do like Cook and McDonald, I really think you know there's a chance they could stick on my team, but I do subscribe to the wait on those tight end and quarterback positions because there are so many out there that you can stream on the waivers and a lot of people picked up Kittle off the waiver wires last year and he became obviously what he became here. So obviously not easy to do that, but the potential is out there. So for me, I think it's gonna be pretty easy to go here with Marquez Valdes-Scantling and really lock in a pretty solid 5 wide receivers and 5 running backs. And then we can still kind of have the flexibility for the next few picks to take another one of each of those, and then also get my starting running back, starting quarterback, and tight end. So we'll take Valdes-Scantling here, and right after him is prime competition. Geronimo Allison goes, as well as Adrian Peterson.
Okay, well, I think I got a little bit of a surprise for you. We're going to
Ooh,
go ahead and round everything out. Quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, Cam Newton, Jared Goff. Running backs, Sean McCoy, Damian Harris, Peyton Barber, Carlos Hyde. Wide receivers, Larry Fitzgerald, N'Keal Harry, Corey Davis, DK Metcalf. Tight end, Jared Cook, Vance McDonald, David Njoku, Trey Burton. I have been playing it relatively safe in this draft, I think. I took some, upside shots when, I had safety at wide receiver. I have a lot of running backs thanks to Kenyon Drake falling. So I think I've played it safe. And now I'm going to throw a little spice into the mix here. I am going to draft Kyler Murray
ooh.
and see what happens with him. Looking at the board, all the teams in front of me do have their quarterbacks already. So in a normal situation, I'd probably be waiting, but I'm kind of worried about this team after me grabbing their backup, given it was quite a while ago that they grabbed Andrew Luck. I do like Kyler. I believe in Kyler, and I think I have the team to deal with any of his growing pains. He's not going to have some wonderful, every week is a golden week um, season. He's going to have some tough weeks, but I'm going to throw a little spice on my roster with Kyler, and if push comes to shove, we'll stream the position and figure things out. But that's what we're gonna do. Take care of the quarterback position now instead of waiting.
Interesting choice.
It's the right choice, Will. You'll
We
see
will
when my
see.
team is done. You'll see. So we
Uh,
have N'Keal Harry went off the board, LaShawn McCoy, David Njoku, Russell Wilson. That rounds out the 10th. Starting with 11-1, Jared Cook, Vance McDonald, Jared Goff, and Corey Davis. All three of the tight ends that Will was mentioning have gone off the board here in quick succession.
See what you did there. The right choice. I get it. Like your last name.
There you go. You're a smart guy, Will. So at running back, we have Damian Harris, Peyton Barber, Carlos Hyde, Jalen Samuel. At wide receiver, Larry Fitzgerald, DK Metcalf, Curtis Samuel, D.D. Westbrook. At tight end, Trey Burton, Delaney Walker, T.J. Hawkinson, Austin Hooper. It's a tough spot. I'd like to pair Kyler Murray with Larry Fitzgerald, but this is not a PPR league, so I will not be doing that. I'm somewhat interested in Peyton Barber because he's the last starter on the board, but I really don't want him either. I feel like I have a lot of wide receivers though, but that's how it goes. So I'm faced with three guys that I like: Curtis Samuel, D.D. Westbrook, and Deshaun Jackson. Curtis Samuel could end up being the one for his team. That wouldn't surprise me. A real breakout year ahead of him. D.D. Westbrook, I think, has a high floor, but relatively high ceiling as well. Not super high because I don't think the Jaguars' offense is going to be amazing, but decently high. And Djax as a little boom bust, um, an extra bit of spice. Um, and that's what I think I'm going to do is go with Deshaun Jackson. We're going to really take this team and just really jazz it up here. Give me that boom if I ever need it. I don't think I'm going to need it, but we're going to do it because he's an Eagle, and you probably want him too. So we're just going to take him out of the equation now, and we'll leave
Man, right
the...
when I leave Dante Pettis for you a couple rounds ago, I feel the love.
Yeah, I'm a knife in the back kind of a guy. So,
uh, Apparently, so is Team 7, because I was really hoping Cam would back to me there, but he did not. Cam Newton goes off the board right there, with Larry Fitzgerald, both right after Steve's pick. Still a few quarterbacks I like. Philip Rivers is on the board, Winston, Lamar Jackson, Jimmy Garoppolo, Josh Allen. The board also has Brady, Roethlisberger, and Prescott on there as well. I'm not too high on them, but they're mixed in as top available. And then taking a look at tight ends, there's still quite a few available here. Trey Burton, Delaney Walker, TJ Hawkinson, Austin Hooper, Kyle Rudolph, Greg Olson, and even Mark Andrews. So be cool with any number of them there. So I'll probably wait until my next double pick on tight end. So I'm really going to be hoping that one of those few quarterbacks I like get back to me the next round. So I'm going to be looking at the running back or receiver position. Like Steve mentioned, we still have Harris, Peyton Barber, Carlos Hyde, Jerick McKinnon, Kalen Balaj, a couple of running back options. But for me, I think it's got to be the receiver first here, just 'cause I think there's more value here. And for me, it's going to be either Curtis Samuel or Dede Westbrook. I do like Emmanuel Sanders as well as Anthony Miller with some upside plays. But I think Curtis Samuel and Dede are kind of a step above. And as I was hoping to get Cam Newton there in this round, definitely it shows my excitement for the weapons on the offense there too. And I think Curtis Samuel is going to have a big step up this year as well as DJ Moore. So for me, it's going to be Samuel. We'll see if any of these receivers remain on the board and then what quarterbacks are still there as well on the swing back pick. So we'll go Curtis Samuel here. And next, Damian Harris, Carlos Hyde, Peyton Barber, and Emmanuel Sanders. So a couple of running backs off the board there. And then the one receiver in Emmanuel Sanders. So as I mentioned, still really not looking at tight end. I'm cool with a couple of them still available. There's still a few quarterbacks that I like on the board as well. Probably highest on Philip Rivers out of all of them there. So if I don't really see a receiver or running back I like, I'll probably lock in Philip Rivers here. For running backs, still have Jerick McKinnon, Kalen Balaj, Matt Breida, Justice Hill. There's not too many options still there, but I'm pretty happy with the 5 that I have. So I don't know that I need to use a pick on one. I'm not locked in. So for me, I'm probably looking at the receiver position again, just because I think there's a lot of value there. And I think I'm going to go with the upside of Westbrook. I'm not sold that he's the one for sure. I like to think he is. I think there's still a lot to shake out here in the preseason. See who the new quarterback in Nick Foles is all about. It does seem to be somewhat of a rushing offense, but with a new quarterback and maybe a new philosophy, we'll take the shot on the upside of Westbrook and then save my last 2 picks here for quarterback and tight end. All right, so we'll take Westbrook. There goes Jalen Samuels and Trey Burton leading into Steve's pick.
Okay, so we'll set the table at all 4 positions. Philip Rivers, Jameis Winston, Tom Brady, and Big Ben are your quarterbacks. Devonta Foreman, Jerick McKinnon, Alexander Mattison, Ito Smith, Kalen Balaj are our running backs. Wide receivers, DK Metcalf, Devin Funchess, Kiki Kuti, James Washington, Dante Moncrief. Tight ends, Delaney Walker, TJ Hawkinson, Austin Hooper, Kyle Rudolph. there are a lot of good wide receivers still left, but I really don't need any wide receivers. We're going to pivot over to the running back position. And we're going to reach a bit, just a bit, and we are going to go ahead and draft Matt Breida. A bit of a homer pick, I will admit. I like Breida. I am a San Francisco fan. And I think that he's going to have some sort of role carved out for him. I'm really worried about McKinnon's future with this team. So a little bit of death could drop him if he doesn't end up with any kind of role, but I really think he's going to have something there. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a Breida to help out my running back core. After me was DK Metcalf, Devonta Foreman, Phillip Rivers, McKinnon, James Washington, Funchess, Delaney Walker, and Jameis Winston. This pick would be a lot easier if I didn't have Kenyon Drake because I could grab Balaj. That would make a lot of sense getting his potential workload this late, but I have Kenyon Drake and I don't want both of them. So we're going to take a look at the wide receiver position. We have Kiki Kuti, Dante Moncrief, Anthony Miller, Golden Tate, and Paris Campbell. The guy screaming out to me right now is Anthony Miller. He's a great value here. He can end up as a number one for his team. So that's where I'm going to go ahead and make my pick. I don't need another wide receiver, but he's, to me, the best option on the board. So I'm not going to shy away from it either. So we're going to go ahead and grab Anthony Miller there. After my pick, Big Ben and Matson go. Will, you are on the clock.
All right, so on the clock here, pretty simple. I've got just a couple of quarterbacks and tight ends I'm interested in. The quarterbacks looking at Lamar Jackson, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Josh Allen. While the tight ends really just looking at Austin Hooper and Mark Andrews. My choice is really affected by the number of guys available at each position. Really be pretty open to any of the three quarterbacks available. So I'll probably hold off because I'm pretty confident that the two teams after me aren't going to take three quarterbacks. And I need the tight end. As much as I do like Mark Andrews long term, and I do think he has a good chance to break out this year, I'm not sold that he's going to. Where I do think Austin Hooper is going to have a pretty guaranteed role in this offense. We'll see how much that is, but there's a lot of receptions that have went out the door with Tevin Coleman. So Freeman will probably take some of those, but I do think Austin Hooper has a good chance to break out and then maybe be a tight end one this year. Otherwise, I can play the waiver wire because this is my second to last pick. So we're going to go with Austin Hooper here and see which quarterbacks get back to me. So there goes Dante Moncrief, Tom Brady, Golden Tate, and Lamar Jackson. So really making this pretty easy decision here. Got the two that I really like, Jimmy Garoppolo as well as Josh Allen. Both have pretty good opening schedules. Both, Garoppolo may be on a better offense, but Allen definitely has the rushing stats to make up for it. There's, not too much of a difference between them. The one thing here that it probably, makes me lean one way or the other is just knowing that Steve would really not like it if I took Jimmy Garoppolo here, just taking his favorite team's quarterback. And that might be really the only tiebreaker I have here. So for me, I'm going to go with Jimmy Garoppolo and to make sure that I can lord that over Steve as much as I can here.
I will remember this, Will. We have future drafts taking place, and I will grab another knife and put it right in your back again, my friend.
Hey, well, this is a recorded podcast here, Steve, so don't forget that. We have recording of this.
Don't incriminate myself, right?
Yeah.
So I have to draft a tight end. I don't have one yet. So Hockenson, Kyle Rudolph, Greg Olsen, Mark Andrews, Jordan Reed, Jimmy Graham are the top of the board. Not too interested in Hockenson. I don't like rookie tight ends. It takes him a little while to get into the groove. Kyle Rudolph, he's just kind of older. He doesn't have a lot of upside. Greg Olsen, could have a good year, but I think it's more likely that he's just done. As Will mentioned, I do like Mark Andrews. A big fan, but I'm not quite sure what the offense is going to be like there. Jimmy Graham is kind of in that Greg Olsen category. I think he's just old and busted and probably done. My pick here is going to be Jordan Reed. Speaking of busted, he has looked great in camp. He's been the best receiver on that team in camp thus far. Got a look at a lot of rookie wide receivers around him. You know, a potential rookie quarterback starting. It might lean on his tight end a little bit. We know what kind of upside the guy has, so that's where I am going to make my pick, and I'm comfortable streaming if need be. So go ahead and grab him. Kalen Balaj went right after me. That's a great pick. Marquise Goodwin,
Hmm.
Paris Campbell, and John Brown. So to touch on my team here, we have Kyler Murray at the helm, quarterback. For our running backs, we have Devonta Freeman, Lamar Miller, Rashad Penny, Kenyon Drake, and Matt Breida. At wide receiver, DeAndre Hopkins, Julio Jones, Brandon Cooks, Dante Pettis, Sammy Watkins, Sean Jackson, Anthony Miller, and at tight end we have Jordan Reed.
All right, and for the far superior team in this draft, we are leading the squad here with Jimmy Garoppolo, Steve's own quarterback. Running backs here we have Todd Gurley, Kerryon Johnson, Mark Ingram, Latavius Murray, and Royce Freeman. At wide receiver, Michael Thomas, Julian Edelman, Chris Godwin, Will Fuller, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Curtis Samuel, and Dede Westbrook. And then at tight end, Austin Hooper.
So, Will, what do you
So
think of your
that,
team?
I'm pretty happy with them. Obviously, tight end and quarterback don't really have too much analysis there. Hoping that either of them can break out, but otherwise don't have too much capital invested, so I'm able to move on pretty easily. Um, Pretty happy with my running back core. Obviously, there's some risk that comes with Gurley. Carry on. People will say there's risk there, and I guess there is. Just based on the small sample size he had last year. But I'm pretty confident that barring a freak injury, I think he's going to be able to shake that injury-prone tag and really become a flat out RB1. So I think I've got a good chance at two RB1s there, and then Ingram was a solid RB2 in my flex spot. With Latavius Murray, you're probably worthy of a flex spot as well, and the breakout potential of Royce Freeman. And then at wide receiver, locked and loaded Michael Thomas first, and then Edelman obviously a little shaky on injury himself there, but as long as he's healthy, he is a locked and loaded, wide receiver two at least. Some weeks he maybe I'll give you a wide receiver one numbers if he can get in the end zone. Godwin, a lot of upside there. Fuller, a little more boomer bust, but pretty good to have with the fourth option. And then with Scantling, Samuel, and Westbrook, I think all three of them kind of in the same boat where people are kind of waiting for them to make that step up to the next level, and hoping that maybe one or two of them can break out to be a wide receiver 2 or 3 this year and really give me some solid depth at the wide receiver position. What about you? How you feeling about your team?
So pretty similar to start at quarterback and tight end. Kyler Murray and Jordan Reed are both just high upside gambles. If they don't work out, I'm perfectly comfortable streaming the position. I love my wide receiver core. It is beastly with the stability that DeAndre Hopkins, Julio Jones, and Brandon Cooks are going to provide, combined with the upside of Pettis, Watkins, and Anthony Miller, and then that boom of Dean Jacks. That's a great squad. I like everybody on it. It's a good mix of stability and upside and potential trade pieces at some point. Running back's a little shakier, but I do have a lot of them. Love Devonta Freeman, perfectly fine with that. Lamar Miller, he's fine, very unsexy, so it's not like going to be in love with the guy. But then having Rashad Penny and Kenyon Drake both sitting there as well to cover any injury risk to Old Man Miller or the now often injured Freeman, it really helps out. And then just an upside play on Burita. If he does end up being the one for San Francisco with Coleman taking pass catching duty, he's going to be a monster as long as he can stay healthy. That is really up in the air. But overall, I really like the team.
Yeah, I mean, and one thing, I think obviously we have some pretty good analysis behind that, but it's always interesting to see, after every draft, I think most people are pretty happy with their teams, and then as the season goes on, things happen, players get traded, injuries happen. So Obviously, that's why they play the game, but it's happy to see that we're both satisfied with our teams here. And that about closes out the mock draft itself. Steve, what kind of updates do we have for the viewers here regarding where to find us?
Absolutely. So, two big updates here. We had Google and Apple go ahead and approve our podcast finally. So, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, any other podcasting app that you use. If you do have something that you cannot find us on, let us know, and we will work with them to get the podcasts into their books. We do put our RSS feed on Twitter. A lot of podcasting apps will allow you to plug that into their app and pull the stream up if you can't search for them. So that option's always there. You can follow us on YouTube at Trust Your Board. You will have some video of the live draft board to go along with the podcast if you're more visual and you want to take a look at the board. You can also follow us on Twitch TV / Trust Your Board Podcast with an underscore in between each word. Occasionally we jump on and do a live stream, usually for about an hour. That's usually 2 or 3 drafts, and we'll pick a category, say PPR, and then we'll do a couple mocks in different positions from that scoring format. And then one of the most important ones would be Twitter. Our handle is Trust Your Board. Please follow us there. That's where you're going to get updates as far as when episodes go live, links to where you can get them on various podcasts. We're always in there, answering poll questions and providing commentary there. You'll also find out when we're streaming there as well. So please give us a follow at Trust Your Board.
Great, and thank you all for joining us today. I hope this helps you as you approach your draft day coming up in the next few weeks. Hopefully, your draft day is not until after week 3 of the preseason. Because anything before that, you are really risking injuries. Both of our rosters look great right now, Steve, but I'm sure you can agree it could change very vastly with injuries that could happen here between now and then.
No, mine's going to be great all season, Will. I don't know about your team, but
Oh
mine
yeah,
will be fine.
even the ACL injury to that one player you just drafted.
No, it's fine. Everything's fine.
Well, we like I said, we appreciate everyone listening. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, follow, and review us all. View us on all of the platforms that Steve mentioned there. We really appreciate that. Tell us what we did good, what we did bad, what you liked, and what you didn't like. We really just love the feedback. This has been the Trust Your Board podcast. Keep mocking, and always remember, trust your board.